Hi, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make a scrapbook page much like this. Everything that I've used in this scrapbook page except these two photographs are available in Photoshop Elements. So let's get started. We'll start with a new document. I need to bring in a background. Let's go to the Backgrounds panel. And I want to bring in find it, this one. Just click on it, hold down the mouse button and drag it over here into our art. Now I just want to use this bottom part. This is actually going to be my foreground, so I want to get rid of all this sky part. In order to do that, I need to turn this into a regular layer. To turn this into a regular layer, just double click on the layer and just click OK. Now I need to make a selection of this bottom part. To do that, I'm going to use the lasso tool. I'm going to use this magnetic lasso tool. So I'm going to just click right here and just start dragging. Now you don't need to hold down the mouse button for this. As long as you started going, you can let go of the mouse button. It will continue to find that edge. The way it finds the edge is it looks for the contrast in your image. So I'm just going to go very quickly along that hillside. And when I get to the edge here, I'm just going to click. And I'm clicking on the outside of our canvas. And it's not going to select that very well. I'm going to have to go back and clean that up. When I get back to the beginning point, you get that little 0 or a O that shows up down at the lower right hand of your cursor. When you get that, just click. And that will complete your shape. Now I need to zoom in because I need to probably add to or subtract from that marquee just to modify it and refine it a little bit. Now if I hold down the Shift key, it will add to the selection, and if I hold down the Option or the Alt on a PC, it will subtract from the selection. Let's get the regular lasso tool, and I'm going to go around my selection and see how we did. I'm going to hold down the Option or the Alt to subtract from the selection right here. I'm just going to make some modifications real quick. Hold down the space bar to get the hand and we can scroll across. Did a pretty good job. Hold down the Option or the Alt and just subtract from our selection. Just going to clean up these areas where the magnetic lasso tool missed. Hold down the Option or the Alt right here. And hold down the Shift to add to the selection right there. And I'm going all the way around that edge to clean up that edge. Hold down the space bar and scroll back over to this other side. Hold down the Shift. Just make sure that I've got that whole edge selected. Now hold down the Command and the 0 or Control and the 0. We'll zoom us back out so that we fit in the window. Now I just need to get all the way around there, make sure I've got that. Hold down the Shift, and I'm just going to come right up here inside of my selection because I know I got these two edges. I just need to go around the outside here to make sure I've got all of that. Now I have the selection. I can get rid of that top part by using a layer mask. This is the layer mask icon. Just click on that and it will automatically mask out everything except my selection, and that's what we want. Now I need to bring in the other background. You can see I don't have a background layer here anymore. I can just drag this background into our artwork and it will create a background layer for me. Now I need to bring in some type. Let's click on the type tool, and I want this to be red. So let's click on this color swatch, and I'm just going to select this red color. Then I can come up here and click right in the middle and type. And then I can click this check mark to accept that. Now I want to put a white line around each letter. And then I want to put a black line around the white line and a drop shadow on it. So to get the white line around each letter, I'm just going to use the layer styles. So make sure that layer is selected. Come up under Layer, Layer Style, Style Settings. Click on Stroke. I want this to be a white stroke, so I'll click on this little color swatch and it will open the color picker. And down here in the hexadecimal, I could just type FFFFFF, and that is white. You can also see it's right up here in the very corner. That's solid white. Click OK. And I want this stroke to be about 10 pixels. So you can type it in there, or you could use this slider. Click OK. Now to get a black outline around that white outline, if I just use the layer style again, it's going to replace the white outline. So to get a black outline around that white outline, I will put this layer in a group. This is the create a group icon. Just click on that, and that creates a group. Let's drag this type layer inside that group. You can tell if it's in that group by clicking on this little arrow. It collapses that group, so we know that's in that group. Now I can just put a layer style on that group. Make sure the group is selected. Go up under Layer, Layer Style, Style Settings. Let's click on the stroke again. We want black this time. We're going to make it a little bit bigger, and we'll just use the slider to visually see what we want. About 21, that should be fine. Now I want a drop shadow. This little dial up here will determine the angle of our light. I like to have the light coming from the upper left. That will put the drop shadow on the lower right down here. So just turn that little dial, click on drop shadow. The distance determines how far the drop shadow comes out from your object. In this case, our type. So you can see it slowly coming out there. I'm going to leave it about right there. The size determines how soft that shadow is. So I'm going to just bring that to the right a little bit to soften it up and click OK. Now I need to bring in my pictures. Let's come down here to the photo bin, and I have two pictures here. Let's grab one. Now hold down the mouse button and drag it up and let it go, and it'll just come in the middle. Now I can size this by just dragging one of these corner squares. These are called handles. I get that double arrow. I can just drag it. That will size it. But I don't want to do that. I want both of these pictures that I bring in to be exactly the same size. So instead I'm going to come up here under Image, Resize, Scale. That opens up the options down here for scaling. You can see it's going to scale from the center. And I have Constrain Proportions clicked. I just need to type in one value in one of these boxes, and the other one will automatically change to keep those proportions correct. So I'm just going to go, we're already at 53.57%. I'm going to go 25%. Just click in 25, and that changed the other one. When I click on this check mark to accept that, it will automatically change to the Move tool, and I can just slide that up. Now I want to rotate that just a little bit, so I can bring my cursor up here to the corner and see how it turns into that double arrow. It's curved. Just click and drag, and that will rotate that picture. Click the check mark to accept that. Now let's bring in the other picture. Let's go back to our photo bin. Let's bring in this picture, and we'll do the exact same thing. It'll come in right in the middle. We'll come up under Edit, Resize, Scale. Now we need to get our options down here. So click on this tool options. Constrain Proportions is checked. Change this to 25. Click the check mark to accept that. And we'll just move this over a little bit and rotate it again. Move our cursor up there. We get the double curved arrow. We'll rotate it just a little bit. Click the check mark. And we've got both our pictures in our scrapbook page. Now I want to put the same layer styles around the pictures as I have around the type. So I need the white outline first. So rather than create it all again, I can just copy the layer styles off of this layer and off of this group, copy them down to these layers. So the style on the type layer is the white outline. So to copy that, I just need to hold down the Option or the Alt if you're on a PC. Just click on that FX, hold the mouse button down, and drag it down to that layer. And we have our white outline around that picture. I'll do the same thing and drag it down to this layer. Now we have our white outline. Now we need our black outline and drop shadow. Remember, to get that, we put our type layer in a group. We need to put these layers in a group. So just click on the new group icon, drag that layer into the group. Let's select this layer now, and we'll come up here and create a group and drag this layer into the group. And now we can do the same thing with this layer style. We'll just copy from the group 1, hold down the Option or the Alt, and drag it down, the FX down to group 2, and drag that FX down to group 3. And now we have the same styles on both. Now I want to create a border. And so we'll select the background, click on this new layer icon. We have a new layer right above the background. I'm going to get the rectangular marquee tool, and using these rulers, now if you don't see the rulers, you can come up under View and Rulers. It's right there. There's the keyboard shortcut to show your rulers. Now if you want to change the unit of measure in these rulers, mine's set at inches. Just hold down, if you're on a Mac, hold down the Control key and click in the ruler, and you'll get this menu that drops down, and you can pick the unit of measure that you want. If you're on a PC, just right click in that ruler and you'll get that same pull down menu. I'm just going to come over here and go to the 1 inch mark and the 1 inch mark down the side. So I'm looking at across the top and down the side. Click and hold the mouse button down and drag. Now to come 1 inch in from the other side, I need to stop at 11. And the bottom doesn't really matter because we're going to be behind that foreground. So I can just leave that. We'll click right there. Now let's go up under Edit, Stroke, and I want this to be a white. So let's click on this color swatch right here. Let's just pull right up into that corner, and you can see that changed it to FFFFFF, solid white. Click OK. And 50 pixels is okay. Let's click OK there. And that gives us our white border. Now I want to ghost that back a little bit. I don't want that to be so solid white. So I'm going to come up here under opacity and change that down to about 60%. Now I want to put the same black stroke and drop shadow on our border. So I just need to copy the FX from one of the groups. That's our black border and the drop shadow. Hold down the Option, click on that FX, and bring it down to that layer. And now our border has the black stroke and the drop shadow. Let's deselect that. Command D or Control D if you're on a PC will get rid of those marching ants. Now I think that black stroke is a little bit too heavy. I just want it to be a hairline. Double click on this FX and that will open up our style settings box. And the stroke, I just want to move that down to about 5 pixels. Okay, now it's just a hairline black stroke around that border. I like that. Click OK. Now I want to bring in some graphics. I want to bring in some snowflakes. So up here, click on the background and you get the drop down menu, and we can choose shapes. That opens up the shapes panel. And I want to bring in these snowflakes right here. We have 3 snowflakes. I'll bring in 1 snowflake. You can see it automatically comes in on its own layer. I want to size that. That's too big. So I'm going to click on one of those handles, the little squares in the corner, and just make that a little bit smaller. Let's move it down about right there. Click the check mark to accept that. And that's okay. Let's bring in these others. Let's bring in this one. We'll put that in this corner and size it. Slide it down just a little bit. Click the check mark. And then let's bring in this one. We'll bring it more into the middle. Let's size it. Same way. Bring it down here, about right there. Click on the check mark. Now I want to put the same hairline black stroke and drop shadow as we have on our border. So all I need to do, the same thing as I've been doing. This is our border layer. Hold down the Option or the Alt. And just drag that FX up to all three of those shapes. And there we go. Now I want to bring this one and this one on top of the type. That one, because it's such a solid white, I'm going to leave that where it's at. I'm going to click on that layer and hold down my mouse button and drag it up. I'm going to just drag it up so that it's above that type. Same with layer 1. I'm going to click and drag it up. Now when I see that line between the layers get dark and thick, black, drop it right there and it'll drop that layer right in that spot in our layer stack. Now you can see those two snowflakes are above our type. And that's what we wanted. Okay, now you have lots of room. You still have room to put some other things in here. You can do some journaling. You can put some more things down here in the bottom. We're basically done. Okay, I want to show you one more thing. I want to show you how to get rid of this bunny. That bunny is up here on this top layer. And I'm going to use a couple of different techniques to get rid of that bunny. First, I'm going to use the clone stamp tool. I don't like to use the clone stamp tool right on my layer because that's destructive editing. That's going to get rid of that bunny, and if we ever want that bunny to come back, we won't be able to get it. It's just a good idea to get into the habit of doing non-destructive editing, which is why we use this layer mask rather than just deleting that top part. So to use the clone stamp tool and not destroy this layer, let's just make a new layer on top of it. Let's zoom in just a little bit. Command and the plus sign, or Control and the plus sign if you're on a PC. Hold down the space bar and we'll just scroll up to the bunny. This is the clone stamp tool. Now make sure that you have the clone stamp tool and not this pattern stamp tool. So make sure you have the clone stamp tool. The way the clone stamp tool works is you'll set a source point, and from that source point you will clone out what you want. It makes an exact copy of those pixels. Hold down the Option or the Alt if you're on a PC and your cursor turns into a target. And this is going to be our source point. We're going to clone from here, and I'm going to line it right up with that shadow. I'm going to come over here, and you can see in my cursor, which indicates my clone stamp tool, you can see the shadow and the snow. You can line that right up. Click and drag. You can see our source point turned into a cross or a plus sign. That's indicating where we are cloning from. Now we're moving up into the white. We're just going to get rid of part of that bunny up there. And we're getting some of that dark green. That's okay. We're going to cover that up. Let's go ahead and set our source point here in the white. We'll just get rid of the rest of that part of the bunny. And then let's set our source point down here, about right there. We can line that up and just clone that part out. Let's do it again and line it up and clone that out. Do it one more time. And we should be good. Let's just get this white area right here. Okay. That part of the bunny is gone. Now we're going to use another technique to get rid of this part of the bunny. Let's go ahead and make a new layer above that. Let's name this one Clone so we don't get it mixed up. Let's make a new layer above the clone layer. We'll name this Dark. We're going to create this dark color. Let's get the lasso tool. We're going to use the regular lasso tool. And we'll just go around the outside of this bunny. Make sure you get all the bunny included, but you don't want too much of the tree. Just like that. I got a little close to his nose. I'm going to hold down the shift and just make sure that I'm outside of his nose. Now I need to fill that with this dark color out here. First I need to get the dark color, so click on this foreground color and that will open our color picker. And to get this color, I can try and pick a color in here, but the easiest way is to just move your cursor out here and it turns into an eyedropper. Just click on that dark color and that automatically puts the dark color in there. Just click OK, and now our dark color is the foreground color. We can get the paint bucket, just click inside of there and that fills that selection with that dark color. Hit Command D or Control D to deselect that. And there's the dark part of our tree. Now we need to get the light part of our tree. Come up here and make another new layer. We'll name it Light. Okay, now let's come over here and get this lasso tool. And these are just regular shapes, just random shapes. So let's just extend some of these shapes that are already here. Like that. Let's hold down the shift. We'll just do the same with some of these others. Let's just extend them. And we're just making random shapes. Let's extend these over here. Let's put another one in there. Let's make one down here. Let's bring in a couple from this side. Now we need to select this lighter green color. We'll do that the same way as we did the dark green. Click on the foreground color. Click in the light area, the light green area. Click OK. Now we need to fill that. We can do that with the paint bucket. Hit Command D or Control D to deselect that. Command 0 or Control 0 to fit in the window. And that's it. We're done. Thank you for joining me in this tutorial, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.